When the Milwaukee track saw first came out, since it was such a highly anticipated tool, I went ahead and made an initial overview video, but I'm not someone that's just going to pull it out of the box, barely use it, and tell you how good or bad something is. But now, 9 months later and tons of use, I can definitely go over it a lot more in depth and give my opinions on it. I'll put a link to the saw down below so you can actually look at the numbers and specs on it, but just to look at the saw here and go over some of the features. One thing I really like is the depth stop adjustment. Just a simple push button design, really nice and smooth. And the thing that's big for me, the American saws here, the scale is actually in inches, which is what I'm used to working with. So that's really nice to have. You'll notice there are 2 indicators, a top one here, and then the lower one is if you use the saw without the track, you'll want to use that. And then with the track is this upper one. The scale is in 1/8 inch increments, but you can stop in between the numbers for down to the 16th. And you'll notice everything's just bold and easy to read. As well, up here on the top, there's a fine adjustment knob, so you can really dial this in to cut a precise depth, whatever you're needing. Along the same lines of setting the depth, this saw has a scoring cut feature, which is really nice for delicate materials. You just want to first make a shallow pass to really make sure there's no tear out. To do that, you just flip this switch up right here. You'll make your shallow pass, and I already have my depth set on whatever material I'm cutting, so I'll just flip that back down, then make my second pass at full depth without having to continuously keep adjusting the depth stop. Moving down to the base on the saw, we have the 2 rail adjustment knobs on the front and back. It's just a cam action style, just to snug that up on the guide rail, take all the slop out of it, but still set it to where it's running nice and smooth. The saw also has an anti-tip feature. It's just a push button and then turn for that little tab to come out, and then it locks in a groove on the track. Really nice for when you're wanting to do bevel cuts. You have the saw set on 45 degrees. Helps keep that base of the saw locked in the track instead of wanting to fall out. As you saw, to bevel the saw, all you have to do is loosen the 2 knobs on both the front and back. Then you can set it at whatever you need. And this in itself is something that I noticed is just how easy this is with these knobs, how much room you have, easy access compared to the saw that I was used to before. Whereas on this one, it's so low that it's actually designed into the base plate. You still got to get your fingers down in there, and this back one's really bad. It's nice and tight up in there. But back to beveling the saw, there is a stop at 22.5 degrees as well, but you can bypass that by pulling out this knob and just rotating it, and you can just leave that there if you want to go all the way back to 45. You can also go past 45 degrees up to 48 and then down to -1 in this direction. To do that, you'll just bevel the saw over, push this little lever forward here to go past 45. This is a really handy feature. I use this a lot. And then again, down to 0, slide it forward to go down to -1. Here on the side of the saw, you have 2 options. This clear one will allow you to see the blade, but then this black one is a splinter guard for your offcut piece, which a main point of a track saw is the 0 tear out here with the track. But with this black one, you actually cut into that the first time you use it. And then that helps eliminate tear out on your other piece on this side of the cut as well. It's not perfect, but it does help a bit. Where both of these really help is with dust collection. You just loosen that down and drop it right on top of your material. And then when your blade's coming through and coming up, and there's usually a lot of dust coming out the front, this really helps. It's actually really noticeable how well this works. Moving on to blade changes, you'll just pull this lever up here. Then when you push the saw down, it'll lock in right where it needs to. The hex key is stored right here in the handle. It's really nice. You don't have to search around, remember where it is. And also it's easy to remember to put it right back because again, it's right there in your face. But the arbor lock is right here on top. Really easy to do. Change your blade. Then we'll push that back down, release it, and good to go. Staying here on the side talking about this Arbor Hole, and if you can't tell, this is going to be a pretty positive review. The saw's been phenomenal, it just is what it is. But to get ahead of some of the comments, the Milwaukee fanboy and stuff like that, using and talking about tools online, I've learned that people are very passionate about their chosen tool brand, and I would say Milwaukee and Festool people are probably up there at the top. It's pretty crazy. But honestly, I use a few different brands. Milwaukee, the truth of it is they've been crushing it lately in the carpentry related tools, the nail guns and stuff that I use on a daily basis. So, but it's not a sponsored Milwaukee video or anything like that, just giving you my opinions here. But when planning for this video, I wanted to take a really close look at it and ask myself, what's it missing? How could it be better? And this is something I wish I could work with brands and test stuff out before they're released and say, hey, you're missing this cheap little piece right here. Just include this. And that's a cover for this hole right here. Just pops in and out. In the past, I've just put a piece of tape on there. And by covering that hole, you're really improving dust collection. So it'd be nice if something like this was included, but I got this from Whitworks, and it's a great way to support other creators and small businesses with 3D printers, and I always like to do that. Here on the back of the saw, you have the speed dial. We can pop a battery in. To engage the blade, the thumb button will slide that forward there to allow you to push down. Then you see that electronic brake. The faster you can stop those spinning sharp things, the better, so that's nice. Here you can see the riving knife that helps prevent kickback. So what else is missing that some people might be interested in? One thing I can think of is Bluetooth capabilities. And by that, I mean when you have a dust collection hose hooked up, when you squeeze the trigger, your vacuum will automatically turn on, be connected to the saw via Bluetooth. While that would be nice, there are cons to that too. And one would be price. By adding that technology to the saw, it's obviously going to increase the price. So personally, I'm glad that Milwaukee came out with this without that. My Makita saw does not have that, but they have a more expensive version that does. Festool has versions without, and then more expensive ones that do. So again, by keeping that off there, they're able to keep the price down. This is at a really nice price point. So who knows, maybe there will be future versions with Bluetooth capabilities, but there are other options as well that I think might even be better than that you can use right now with this saw. And I'll put a picture up on the screen of what I'm talking about. And that's these little remote buttons that you can use with any vacuum. You're not pigeonholed into, if Milwaukee saw had that Bluetooth capability, you wouldn't have to use a Milwaukee vacuum. You can use it with any of them. You can use it with a cheap little shop vac if you want to. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to be able to turn your vacuum on remotely. You can have it here on your hip. You can strap it to the handle on the saw, whatever. It's not going to turn on when you squeeze the trigger, but just being able to push a button that's right here on you is still a really great option. As I go through this, I'm kind of just answering common questions that I've gotten. And one guy was really mad that Milwaukee used a proprietary blade size. And right away, I'm like, dude, what are you even talking about? It's the exact same size blade that I've been using for years on the Makita. 6.5-inch blade or 165 millimeter, and both with a 20 millimeter arbor. Exact same size. I can put the Makita blade on here, no problem. So definitely not a proprietary size. The Makita is a very popular saw as well, and they're both the exact same. And it's a really nice size blade for a track saw. You got 2 1/4 inches in the 90 degree and 1 5/8 when it's tilted at 45. Without a doubt, the most common questions are about track compatibility, and I get it. Milwaukee was pretty late bringing their saw to market, and maybe you already have one, but Milwaukee's your primary platform and it's a great saw and you really want it, but you already have a lot of other tracks and money invested in those, and you want to know if the saw will fit. And yes, the saw will work on both. This is the Makita, this will be the same as the Festool, and there's several other brands that use the same overall design. There are slight differences, but yes, the saw will work on them. And here's what I mean by slight differences. I have the Milwaukee on the Makita track here, and you can see the blade is not touching this black splinter guard like it's supposed to. That's the point of a track saw. It's not cutting the same as where the Makita saw has already cut this track previously. So you have two remedies to that. Maybe you're due to swap it out anyway. You can just go ahead and replace the splinter guard, make a fresh cut with the Milwaukee, and it'll be right where it's supposed to. Or you can actually adjust the shoe of the saw. There's 4 slotted holes right here. You can loosen these up and you have a lot of room. You can shift this over to where it's touching your old track so you don't have to replace that if you don't want to. And while I'm here on the bottom of the saw, these 2 bolts right here are to adjust the blade 90 degrees, and then these 2 are for the 45-degree detent. I haven't had to make any adjustments with mine, but if you do, everything's made here on the bottom. A great feature that both the Milwaukee and Makita saws have is that anti-tip feature, and it's built into their tracks with that slot there. And I saw where people say, yes, the Milwaukee saw will work on these guide rails, but that anti-tip feature is different and doesn't work. And honestly, I don't know what they're doing, guys, because it works perfectly fine on mine. Engages nice and smooth there. You can see there's plenty of room. It works as it should. So again, there's all sorts of information out on the internet. It's hard to know what you should believe and shouldn't, but as you can see, mine works, so that's all I can tell you. Some other misinformation I was seeing deals with the quality of the tracks, and it's a complete opposite of what I've experienced. He was saying he wants to use the Makita because it's thicker, nicer, higher quality track. But when I pulled the Milwaukee out of the box, the first thing I noticed was how much heavier it was than I was used to, thicker, and just really nice, high quality. And I don't even have to put calipers on it. You can visibly tell the difference. Milwaukee did a really nice job on all this stuff. The rail connectors are solid, one piece, nice and straight. The clamp, really nice and heavy duty. Like I said, Milwaukee just did a really nice job on all this stuff. It's all heavy duty and really nice quality. But again, back to compatibility between the brands. Here I have the Milwaukee router with their guide rail attachment, and that works on both of them. The clamp obviously works on the Milwaukee. Works just fine on the Makita. Guide rail connectors, these are the Milwaukee connectors. They work just fine on the Makita. So everything that I have works with both tracks. An attachment that I use most frequently, I use this all the time, is the TSO Products Guide Rail Square. I've used it on the Makita for years, and I've kept using it for the past 9 months on the Milwaukee with no problems. But I'm seeing where guys are saying it's not compatible with the Milwaukee, and then I saw where the company was saying it was not compatible, so I'm like, hold up, I've been using it this whole time. It attaches to the track, it cuts square like it's intended to do. So what's the deal? What's not compatible about it? So to be better informed, I actually reached out to TSO Products so I could figure out what's not compatible about it. The difference is in this little T right here, and its intended purpose is just to hold it on the track. That's all it's intended to do. And when you clamp this down, I'll pull it to the edge so you can see. When you clamp that down, they want it just floating in between here. They don't want it touching the rail or anything. And as you can see on the Makita, it's exactly right where it should be. But when I put it on the Milwaukee track and clamp it down, you can see it's tight and touching over on this right side. So when talking to TSO Products, they weren't surprised at all that I've been using the old guide rail on the Milwaukee with zero issues. That's just not what they want that to do. So if you buy a new one, that is corrected. The new model is compatible with all the brands, including the Milwaukee. I don't know if they shrunk that down or just moved it over a little bit. But if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting one of these. It's so awesome just to put it on and instantly square up. It works great. And like I said, the new model will fit the Milwaukee. But if you already have one, honestly, like I said, I've been using it with zero issues. But if you wanted to, I'll probably just file that down a little bit to where it's not touching. There's still plenty of meat there to where it's going to do its job of holding in there. And then I'll just file a little bit off so it's not touching that track, whether that they're afraid it'll cause damage or accuracy. But like I said, it's been working great for me, but I probably will file that down a little bit. All right, I know these videos are a lot of talking, and I'm sure you actually want to see some cuts being made, so let's do that. But like I said, I just wanted to use the saw for an extended amount of time to really get a good opinion built on it and see if any issues arise or anything like that. And honestly, there hasn't been any. Super powerful saw, good dust collection, cuts accurate and square. Being on the M18 platform is huge for me. That's one of my primary platforms, and only needing one battery to run the saw is a big plus with this. When going over the features of the saw, I had to stop myself from wanting to say easy and smooth and simple so many times, because it is. Everything is just really user-friendly about the saw, and it's just a high-quality, professional grade. Milwaukee did a really nice job with this, and hopefully this video answered a lot of your questions. If there's anything else you want to know, just drop me a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get back with you.